The other two, the ladies probably got the late notice also, so I texted them. I'm glad we're here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order of the San Diego Riverside School Board January meeting, January 2025 on January 16th at 6:01 p.m. Okay, so first item on the agenda is to do the roll call. So I'll go ahead and do the roll call. So Susan Baca,
Here.
okay, David Toledo,
Present.
okay, Margie Krill, present. Kiani Upshaw Toya just told me that she can log on for a few minutes, so she'll be logging on in a minute, so I'll call roll when she gets here for her. And LaDonna Sando, I don't think she's present, but maybe she might join us. So we did establish, we do have 3 board members, we do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started with the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda that was sent out on the email. So I just need a motion and a second to approve the agenda for this meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Susan Bach made a motion to approve this January 16, 2025 agenda. Do I have a second?
I second it.
David Toledo, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Margie, and also I see Kiani's name on there as joining us.
Oh, good. Thank you for telling me. So we called roll, so I'll go ahead and add Kiani Upshaw. Toya, are you present? Probably just needs to.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, she's present. So we have 4 of the board members present right now. So great. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and go on to the next item on the agenda is approval of the December 10th meeting minutes. So Mr. Lovato, do you know, did we get the December 10th meeting minutes? Because Shandini usually sends them out to us. Does anybody remember receiving those on their email?
I believe Jensen sent those out.
Okay, Jensen, I didn't pick that up. Did anybody else see?
I read them earlier.
This afternoon.
Okay, great. Okay, so if you guys take a look at those meeting minutes, I just need a motion to accept them in a second.
I read them. I was kind of in and out. I had bad reception that meeting. So I didn't get the whole meeting. Is it okay if I still make a motion for those or?
If you got to read them and you believe that they're okay, then yeah.
I thought they were fine. I don't know how everybody else felt about that.
Okay, so Susan made a motion to accept the December 10th meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, David Toledo, second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, so we'll go on to the next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee report and the business manager of the Finance Committee report. And Greg is here with us tonight. So you have the floor, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Creel. I will begin by sharing my screen. Before I can do so, I need to send a request. Okay, can everybody see this well? Do we need to zoom in a little bit?
It's good.
Okay, shouldn't take too much time. There are no bars to go over for the month of December. We're going to start off with our analytical reviews. So we are generally keeping within budget for most of our funds and going through our expenditures on a consistent basis across the months as we have been. With current year revenue and budget revenue, we are still keeping everything within in our budgets. We have received a few different deposits throughout the month. Monthly SEG, food claims coming in, RFRs to speak of, and our fund balances are remaining healthy and within use. SB 9 funding is something that we can have positive fund balance for across years. Consistency remains key, so our spending per student is remaining within our reaches as far as expenditure goes. Our costs have gone down a little bit to reflect for our lower student count. On an annual basis by month, we have spent a little bit less this in 2024 versus 2023 and more than 2022. Still keeping a good eye on what we are spending our money on between payroll and other items. As that's reflected, we are keeping our investments largely within the classroom. We care about our teachers and our students and their support. So that remains, for the most part, our majority of expenses, as is reflected here. Little changes across the month across the year for different kinds of expenditures, but largely consistent. Our liquidity is 3.18 for the month of December. A good, healthy liquidity to be at where we're at. A few non-routine things happened for our check report this last month. Our audit has finished and we paid our auditors for the entire progress work billing that they did for fiscal year 24. We had one routine payroll and one final separate payroll for Mr. Tony Archuleta. And we had another final payroll for Miss Wilma Gachupin as she had finished her time with San Diego Riverside. And these are the details of those checks. Any questions on any material we've gone over so far?
Not yet, Greg. We're still looking. Looks good though.
Okay. Next up are account summary reports between our revenues and our expenditures. The actual date range off to the left here details what we got activity for the month of December. Our available YTD cases are across the year. As previously mentioned, we got our monthly SCG allotment. We got a monthly food claim reimbursement back And as we scroll down, we'll see that we got our request for reimbursements from our federal direct funds, one from Medicaid, and one for state, and then our taxes, our property tax allocations. And here begins our expenditures.
Greg, this is Margie. I have a question about, you said property tax expenditures back there. We don't have property tax on the reservation on the Pueblo, do we?
So Sandoval County gives a monthly distribution of revenue for different lands. That's
Oh, for schools.
of value. Yes. So Jemez Valley Public Schools receives one, Walatoa Charter High School receives one, and we receive one.
Okay, good. But I was just making sure that we weren't being charged property tax. So this is when we vote to support schools and all that. This is what they give back to the schools then, right?
Yes, we get a monthly distribution of that.
Great. Good to know. I didn't even know about that. Thank you.
Hello, Greg.
Yes.
This is David. I'm not really a speed reader, but the school, they get a copy of this report every month. Mr. Joe Dan has a copy of this.
Yes, Jodan and Margie receive a monthly copy of this before
Okay.
these meetings occur.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we had a copy on file.
Yeah, I printed out too, and then I can always email you a copy, everybody.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
and David, one thing we'll work on when we get to our retreat, we should probably start meeting regularly within our committees. Finance committee, what we'll be able to do is review that in a finance committee meeting, and then be able to kind of move this along a little bit more quickly, because those folks on the finance committee who have already reviewed it, and they'll just bring certain things to the board for questions. So I just want to point that out. And before we move any forward, I just looked to see our guests in. We have our attorney joining us this evening, Mr. Dan Hill, very well known, very well respected. Please let the minutes reflect that he's joining us. And I don't mean to pause you, Greg, but Dan, I don't know. I think this might be a good opportunity since I have you here to just kind of say a quick hello to the board and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. Like Jodan said, I'm an attorney based in Albuquerque. I only represent charter schools. I was formerly the general counsel at the public education department. So I work with lots of charter schools across the state. And I know Jodan through that work as well. So really excited to be working with you. I'll put in the chat my contact information, but feel free to reach out. Text message is usually the best way to get a hold of me, but text or email if you have any questions, or give me a call, and looking forward to working with you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
very
Dan.
much, for being here. Yes, glad to have you as our attorney. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so following our account summary report, we have a statement that summarizes the different activities and a different arrangement across functions and across funds. Example, we can see our SEG allotment within these two codes, different numbers of expenditures we spent on across different funds, and the like. All of that eventually feeds within our balance sheet report. Last but not least, our bank account reconciliation report. Everything ties out to a $0 difference from the general ledger, and this summarizes from the bank's perspective what our activities were for the month. On this voided page, I saw that one voucher needed to be voided and redone. This was just to make sure this was recorded in the right date properly. Everything is still getting paid timely as is the goal. And finally, the bank statement. Are
Thank you.
there any other questions? Any other
Yes, this is-
material I can go over?
This is Margie. Can you go back to the cash disbursements that where all the checks are written out to? So I just want the board to take a look at that on that page where we could see all the checks that were written out. And this was for the month of December, right?
Yes, everything listed in this is for the month of December.
Okay.
Which page number do you have in mind, Ms. Girl?
Think it was, that's the bank reconciliation. Let me just see. I think it's, I'm not sure the page it has, there's the cash disbursements here. Cause I didn't see it. I saw where you put like, where you put the check, where you said that you did Mr. Archuleta's closeout check and Wilma Gotchman's last check before she retired. I think it was that page. Yeah, right there. There it is. The check report. That's it. That's it. I just want the board to take a look at that and see if there's anything else on here that you have a question about. There is, Both Hamas, that's the water bill. I know that. Oh, the audit. So the audit, normally when we have the audit for our school, we were with, Hamas Valley because we were underneath them and they audited us and them, and then we each paid for, half of the auditors. Is this Hinkle and Landers audit? Was it all us? Is it just us? Is that why it was so $19,000 for that audit?
So they did audit the district and the school at the same time. There was a consolidated audit because of the reporting that occurred. Hamas Valley did pay them their portion of dues, as did we. But they billed us separately.
Okay, and I just says like the IRS, the routine, it says the final payout for Mr. Archuleta. So that wasn't a check that we gave to him. That was a check that we paid for to the IRS for him. Is that what that is? Is that what that means?
Yes, so what this means was because the separate payroll for Mr. Archuleta and the routine payroll of December 5th occurred at the same time, the system had reported the payments made to Internal Revenue Service together. Direct deposit had occurred, Internal Revenue Service payments were made. So it summarizes that information.
Okay, everything else looks okay. I know the propane bill's kind of high for December 20th, but that was right before we went on break. They filled up our tank, so I don't know how much gas was at that point, but that's kind of high. Windstream's always high. I guess the food's okay. All right, that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions on the check report or any of the checks that were written out for the month of December? All right, I guess that's all then. Go ahead, somebody. I just need a motion and a second to accept the finance report with the cash disbursements and the reconciliation. Anybody on the board can make the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the cash disbursements and the payment vouchers,
Reconciliation, okay.
reconciliation.
Okay, so Susan Baca made a motion to accept the finance committee report, the finance report with the reconciliation and the cash disbursements. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
David Toledo, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you for that, Greg. We appreciate that. You could stay on if you'd like. And we're going on to the next item on the agenda, which is the
Thank you, Greg.
the principal's report.
Thank you, Ms. Grill. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. And Dan, I just want to check in while I'm pulling this up. Is there any suggestions or recommendations to the board? Efficiency, I know you've seen many other boards function, and I just kind of want to open it up to you for anything you have as input while I pull up my report.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And it sounds like you're having a retreat too, so I could also help there. I mean, I think you're your finance report's very thorough, which is great, but also, adds time to the meeting. So a lot of boards use finance committee to kind of preview the report, and then the committee presents the report, makes a recommendation, but it's really a matter of preference for the board. So, but as we keep working together, we kind of get to learn what the board's preferences are, and we can kind of tighten some things up there. But that's just kind of one immediate thought.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And so you'll be attending the retreat with us on February 1st?
I will try to get it on my calendar and be there.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I know kind of short notice with everything, but I know we're moving forward as quickly as possible. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here so that everyone can see this report. I know it's a little lengthy. I'm hoping that we can take some of this stuff down as we move forward through the school year, but let me go ahead and share this. Can everybody see that all right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, I have it.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and start at the top here. So the last time we met was my first time going to the board, and I kind of just pointed out some of the things that I had seen at face value. I believe I was only there about 2.5 weeks. So as I started progressing and coming back from New Year, there were a lot of things that I've uncovered, and I just want to make sure that we're transparent with the board so that you can see what's on my plate right now moving forward again, so that we can close out this school year on a positive note. So the Public Education Department Charter School Divisions support site visit. We had them at the school last week. This visit went extremely well. The team's very supportive. They gave a lot of great insight and a lot of guidance on certain items. We just discussed things like the 90-day plan, epicenter, school safe plan, and we're in the process. They're actually in the process of helping to create a new document concerning the conditions that were set forth from the district, which then kind of evolved when the Public Education Department got them, or the PEC rather got them, and now they're giving me the opportunity, or I should say us as a school, to kind of let them know what we would like to see moving forward, because we understand that when that was first initiated, it changed prior to me getting there. It changed now that I'm there. So they're giving us a little bit of a window, and then I'm gonna need to present these new conditions in terms to the PEC on February the 5th. So we'll go into a little bit more discussion when we get to our retreat. So I'll have a little bit more information there. They've created a special committee, and that's where that meeting is supposed to occur. We'll be meeting with that special committee to discuss and address those new conditions. Our annual site visit, which is going to be our big day, it's going to be March the 3rd. I believe that's a Monday. And we are more than likely going to require a few board members. Usually it's 2 to 3 board members. Am I correct there, Dan? I think it's 2 to 3 board members that take part in the focus group.
Yeah, it can't be a quorum, so
It'll have to be 2.
It would
So
have to be 2, right?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just want to put that on there because whoever's available, Margie, I'll let you discuss that with the board. Again, we can talk about this at the retreat to see who's available. 1, preferably 2. There's a potential on bringing a new board member on. I just really wanted to make sure I confirmed that he was still interested. So I'm going to be getting that information out to you all this evening, and I'll pass it on to Margie, and then I'll let you guys do the vetting process to see if he's a good fit for the board. We'd like to try to bring this individual on so that he can attend the retreat. He's still going to have to do the 10 hours, but I just want to make sure that that's on your radar. Here's the big stuff that I was starting to work through, and I'm still working through every single day. Epicenter, when I arrived at the school, this was not complete. There were a handful of items that were due back in October, and there were some that were due in December. My goal was to try to get this done before we went on break. I know some folks at the state were very nice in saying that I had a few months to try to wrap my mind around it and try to get these items in, but I had a feeling that there were other items that were not completed yet, and these are all things that the head administrator, principal, director needs to make sure that they take care of. So this is what's on my plate. So I am happy to report that I've submitted all these items. Many of them have been accepted. We're just waiting for a handful of them to be reviewed and accepted, or either sent back to me so that I can make corrections.
Judan, I need to interrupt you for real quick. This is Margie. I just want you to explain to the board what epicenter is so that
Sure.
they'll know what happened and what you had to put into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Epicenter is one of our many dashboards in our state that require some forms of reporting, and it's not so much academic, it's more policy, procedure. So we were looking things like the Open Meetings Act. If you notice on our website, we've added our OMA statement. That was one of the simple things that I was actually overthinking at that point. Let's see here. We needed to upload things like our student handbooks, our employee handbooks, which I'm going to present at our retreat because we're going to need the board to approve those ones. I'm still looking through them so that I know what maybe changes we need to make before we approve those, and I'll bring those to the board at the retreat. But a lot of it is just policy and procedure and things that are put in place for oversight and accountability. That would take me, is that okay, Margie?
That was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the next part of that is our 90-day plan. This was also not addressed, and this was due back in August and September. They call it a 90-day plan for a reason. We're supposed to have it done prior to a 90-day. And much of this has actually been completed right now. We're just finishing up the processes on this. I'm hoping to get the 90-day plan submitted by February. There's just a handful of items that we still need to do with the teachers. And I'm hoping to get some of this done. I've actually delegated somebody on our staff to try to help get this done. And I know some of the folks at the Wallatoa High School that we contracted out with are also helping us to get this completed. So we're really grateful for the support on this. Our other item that was not addressed and was due in December 1st was our Safe School Plan. And that's kind of a big deal right now because it's important for us to ensure the safety of all of our students and our employees at the school. So I've been really working hard to get this done. I did receive a digital copy of one that was completed, I think, back in 2021. So unfortunately, it's not the biggest of help because the templates have changed. And there's certain trainings that our staff should have already been going through since the beginning of the school year, stuff like active shooting training, for example. And so I'm kind of having to start some of this stuff from scratch. Also, some of our evacuation plans were out of date, so I'm in the process of updating those. And again, my target for getting this stuff is hopefully to submit this by the end of the month. So I'm really trying to get on the ball with our school safety plan. I met earlier this week with Pat Rialoba, former representative for the South Valley. He's one of the folks that's presenting the Rave Panic Button. This is a free program and a free app that communicates with staff and even other agencies outside of the school in the event that we have an emergency. Really simple. An app goes on the phone. If something happens, a staff member, whoever's present, will be able to report this, and that message goes directly to our delegated individual that's going to be with the fire department and or police or other emergency system support. So I just want to let you all know that we're underway with this, and this is free for the school. And I think this is a really great program. Some schools are going other routes and paying money for other items, and I know they're great items, but this is a really neat feature that we're going to be able to add to our school to ensure safety. Let's see here. Teacher evaluations. This was also something that was not addressed prior to me getting there. So I actually prior to this meeting, I was meeting with the public education department on evaluations. It's called Elevate. That's what we've gone with for this school year, and we're trying to get our teachers caught up with our professional development plans. That's their PDPs, beginning of the year evaluations, and our middle of the year evaluations, so that we can start finishing up with our end of the year evaluations. So I'm just trying to navigate this. This one's something a little new to me. I did this as a teacher. Things have changed a little bit, and the school that I came from previously had their own evaluation system, which is something we might want to embark on going into next school year. just it's a choice. I know there's a lot that goes with what the state has for the accountability and evaluation system for teachers, but we might fare better if we create our own evaluative system. You know, that's something that we'll look at as we close out the school year. I was able to initiate a contract with IXL. This was something that was really important for us to get more support for students within math, ELA, science, and social studies. And yeah, especially when we go on those asynchronous days, we really don't have a really a solid program to give our students that support while they're outside of school. And I'm familiar with IXL. I think we're going to see some really good gains by putting these support systems in place. And it's not just going to be for math in ELA. As I pointed out, we actually purchased the licenses so that we can move forward with science and social studies for our students. So really excited to get all of our students you know, uploaded into the program and getting them started so that they have this. We'll also utilize this in school, but this will be great for them. It's individualized learning. So they'll take a pre-assessment, it'll kind of gauge where they're at, and then it'll give them modules and assignments tailored to where they're at. So again, great support, really excited that we were able to bring IXL to San Diego Riverside. Our heating and cooling systems, gosh, well, our heating system on the back end of the school went out. We had somebody come out and look at it, and I did share the quote that was given to us. I can put that up there, Margie, if you'd like me to. Let me see if I can actually pull this up now. There we go.
Yes, we need to know what the recommendation and what they quoted you, please.
Sure. Let me. Are you still seeing? You're probably still seeing the report, correct?
Yes, we're still seeing the report.
Okay. Let me see if I can get to. There we are. Okay. Everybody see that? Okay. That's the quote that was generated to us from Armor Heating and Cooling. Really nice folks came out, took the time. Oops, I just exited out of what I needed. So there we go. I have too many windows open. There we go. Okay. So we have an estimate for two options. One is to replace the heating unit completely. He went in and told us that we're also gonna need to do some duct work. It's pretty bad. There is mold all over in that unit, and there's probably mold in the actual ducts. And so we're going to need to do a little bit of electrical work if we upgrade that. In other words, if we replace it with another outdoor unit, that's going to be running off of propane. That unit would come out to around $8,491.40. That's the quote for the 4-ton unit that would go outside and heat only the back part of the school. We're only looking at the back part of the school for right now. Because Dominic Toya got up on the roof prior to me getting there and tried to get everything running. Our heating is running through the rest of the school. I would like to phase in whatever we decide here. I think it's really important for us to invest into the school, into the infrastructure if we have the funds to do this. You know, clean air, just a better system, better heating system, and a cooling system. So this unit right here, again, is just for the back part of that school. The second option are going to be what they call the split systems, and this is from Bosch. So it's a heating and a cooling system. It's all electrical, and the systems would go inside of the school. So we'd be able to do away with that portion of the school as far as propane is concerned. And these are highly efficient when it comes to working off of the electrical grid. And they can run in negative below 13 degrees. So below negative 13, my apologies. So these units are coming in just a little bit more pricey because we have to set each unit into a classroom. One classroom is going to need 2 units. Miss Pecco's classroom will need 1 unit, and then Miss Bernadette Garcia's classroom will need 1 unit. They cannot be changed to different temperatures like we're used to. They have to kind of run off of the same temperature, but I don't see that as being an issue. And the price quote for those 4 units, I want to make sure I'm looking at this because that's what he said. All the units will be placed in the outer wall, so no pumps will be needed for condensation. Price includes all electrical, roof jacks, and other modifications needed to bring the job up to code. And then they'll sit where the old carrier units sit now. Systems will come with a 5-year warranty. On both of those units, he's going to give us a 2-year labor warranty, which is a pretty dang good deal. And these units are going to be running about to get that package is about $10,218.
Is that per unit? Like we need 2 units? Is that, or is that the whole system?
No, that's for the 4 units, I believe, and I don't see that where it's marked. But what he told me was that that should be for the 4 units that we need. So there we go. There will be 2 6K units installed in the smaller rooms, and then 2 12K in the larger classroom.
Well, for $1,500 extra dollars from that, just replacing that back heater to this, I think that, you know, $1,500, we just paid that on propane itself right now, as we saw in our finance report. So that's a good thing to look into. Yes.
And we did, just to be transparent, we did fill, I didn't realize we had 2 propane tanks. One feeds the cafeteria for heating, cooling, and for cooking purposes. The other one runs the backside. Sorry, it runs the heating, the cooking, and the other portion of the school. When you walk in the front office, all the way up until the where the hallway turns off, and then the other propane tank only ran the backside of that. We did fill that because when they told me that the propane was out, it was out. We figured that it was just going to be as easy as filling the propane tank and then, you know, getting that started. But the switch is out, and to replace it, that unit is extremely old. He said that it would be very difficult to locate some of those parts, and even if we were lucky enough to locate those parts, we might be looking at a month to 2 months on a turnaround to get that fixed. And I don't think we can wait that long to utilize those classrooms. Right now, I've moved that back classroom, and so that would be Miss Anderson's classroom and Miss Pecco's classroom. I've relocated them temporarily to other portions of the building so that they can stay warm and conduct their classes. And what I'm proposing is, you know, we can phase this in. We can use those other units that are in the front as long as we need to. But I'd really like to see those electrical units. So again, if we have the right funding, moving into next year, we can retrofit those other classrooms moving forward. And I'll get the estimate for those just so we can have those on hand. The propane tank was filled up on that other end that we cannot use, but what we'll do is talk to the propane company to see if they can put those back. I know they do that. It'll probably be a small charge. We'll put that propane back into their tank, and then we'll have them put that into the other tank because we're still going to need that anyways.
Right. Wow. Thank you for that.
So nothing's going to waste.
Thank you. This is Margie. I'm glad that you saw this and Greg had left, but did you already talk to the finance department or business manager about the monies that we have available to do like a $10,000 project for heating and cooling?
Yeah, there's some money in there from SB9 that we should be sufficient enough to get this done. So I'll double check with Angie again that this isn't anything that we need to vote on. This is just something that I definitely want the blessing from the board to know that these are the options. And if there's a suggestion, I'm all ears. But just want to make sure that, you know, I'm good either way. I'm making the recommendation on the option 2, which are the mini splits. Again, I think we'd save a lot more money going with the electrical because they're so efficient. We wouldn't have to be wasting all that propane that we were using on those ancient units that we have at the back.
Do you know what heats the portables? You know, that the portable that Miss Reynoso's in for kindergarten, first grade, and then the portable that's taken over by the immersion school. Do you know what
Yeah,
those two?
I'm looking into that right now. I think they're tied into a completely separate unit, and it might even be all electrical too. I just asked them to come back at some point once we make this deal because we're gonna need to look at that. Now, I don't know that they're on the propane. This kind of fits in with the school safe plan because I have to identify shut off. And I don't have a good schema of what the actual campus looks like, where certain lines and are gas lines and electrical lines are pretty apparent. Gas lines are a little confusing because there are 2 propane tanks on the campus. So I'm gonna actually reach out to see if somebody can come and flag those for me next week. But I found it really interesting because when that tank ran out of propane, I didn't get any complaints from Miss Reynosa. And definitely there was a period where that tank didn't have any fuel in it, any propane in it, and the magnet school that's next to us didn't reach out. So either they had a bunch of space heaters, or I really don't know what they were on, but we'll be looking at that as well. And again, if we have the money, and we're gonna go with the mini splits, we probably would only need 2 more of those splits, and I'll work with Angie and Greg to ensure that we have sufficient funds to make those upgrades.
That would be good. And also, that's another thing that's a entirely different subject that we need to talk to the board about, is like collecting rent from the immersion schools so that, because they are using our electricity, and you saw the electric bill from Hamus Mountain Electric for that 1 month was $1,200. The propane, for December 20th was $1,900. I mean, and all of those is benefiting that immersion school, and we're not getting any rent money from them. So that's another thing we need to look into, but that's, like I said, a totally different subject.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead and give you our blessing or ask you any questions right now if you have a stopping point about this
Sure.
heating and cooling? Okay, does anybody from the board, this is Margie asking it, from anybody from the board have any questions about what he presented, but Joe Dan presented about the new system for heating at our school and the 2 different quotes that he received? Anybody have any questions or concerns about those?
I don't.
That's good. That's Susan Baca.
I will.
Okay, go ahead. This is David Toledo.
I'd like to say a special thank you to Mr. Joe Dan Lavato. Thank you for, number one, thank you for being here at the school. We really appreciate it. And going back to the finance report and just your report now, my heart feels good that San Diego Riverside is really starting to look like a school, and the professionalism is very high. And I really thank you for being there and having education in your heart for our children. And I know it's been really cold here the past 2 weeks, and I'm glad you're on the ball to look into renovation or getting a whole new system. And I do support all the things that you've done, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. And part of the reason too, I want to give some rationale behind those units. Margie had mentioned that, at some point we'd like to build a new school, right? Whether
Yes.
it's in that location or somewhere else. And I think what we'd like to look at is anything that we put into this school, anything that we install into this building, in the event that, 3, 5, 7 years down the line that we decide we have the funds and we're in the right place to create a new school building, we'd like to be able to take some of these items with us and retrofit them back into the school so that we're not having to pour more funds into things. And so, but Mr. Toledo, I do appreciate it, and I appreciate the support from the Governance Council.
Thank you.
So
Awesome.
with
Margie,
thank you. With that, so do you think that everybody looking at those 2 invoices from Armor, the Armor Heating and Cooling gentleman is a very nice guy that I met from Isleta Pueblo, and it was another guy, Anthony Heron from Isleta, that was working on our school before for different plumbing and heating needs, and he got picked to be on his tribal council in Isleta Pueblo, so he sent Armor to us. And Mr. Lovato really enjoyed visiting with him and getting these quotes, and also we feel like we're in good hands with this. Did anybody have any specific questions on the 2 quotes? Or I'm for the $10,000 unit, and like I said, for if that's both units or whatever, that's great. If it's two different units, we'd have to take a look and see if we have enough SB9 money for that, but I'm for that, that quote, if anybody else has anything to say about the two quotes.
And Margie, thank you. I just got to give a big shout out to Margie. I appreciate you giving me the recommendations. She's a master networker and knows a lot of good folks out there that can come and do some good things at our school. So Margie, thank you for passing along that information.
Thank you for that. I just like construction and building and everything, so I just try to meet people in all of that direction, and sometime they're going to help us build the new school. So thank you.
All right, seeing that there's no questions, if you'd like to contact me, outside of the meeting or sometime tomorrow over the weekend, but what I'd like to do is submit this, work with the business office tomorrow, get this out to Jason and see if we could get them out to the school as soon as next week to start installation.
That would be great. I give you my blessing for that. Thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and move on with the rest of the report. That leads us to the school maintenance. Right now, we're looking at another vendor to fix some of our doors by the cafeteria in the back of the school. This is also a pretty pressing issue because we are having to chain the doors, and it's a safety issue for our students, especially when we start doing evacuations. I'm looking, it looks like something was initiated back in August, but I'm going to work with the business office to identify a more feasible vendor that is recommended and already a vendor through ACES or CES, which helps us with the procurement process. So just want to let you all know that we're working on that. Hopefully I can get that going next week as well. Transportation, this is something that's going to be a thorn in my side, and it's not something I want to report, but we are more than likely going to end up losing the money for transportation that was allocated this school year. The reason why, when I stepped in about a week before, maybe a week and a half before Sorry, we have a little boy in here that was really excited about transportation, so he's upset just like I am. So what happened was they allocated about $155,000 to us for transportation, and they were already going to take a large chunk of that back because we did not initiate transportation. The week right before we went on winter break, I got on the phone with Herrera Busing. Martin's been really great to work with. I worked with him previously at other schools for field trips, and I worked with him at the last school I was at. Just a really great guy. I said, look, I'm in emergency right now. They're going to pull all this funding from me if we don't get buses going. Business office was in the loop with it. So we were really trying to initiate a contract for busing and transportation. Unfortunately, once business office got back to me, they said, this could take up to 90 days to finally get going through the process. And so I'm still trying to see if there's a last ditch effort to try to get something here. But what's going to end up happening is if we don't, and it looks like we're just going to be unsuccessful with this, if we're not able to get the transportation this year, we lose that chunk of funding, that allocated funding from the state going into next year. It's not appropriate to call it this, but I call it a probationary period because essentially we would have to pay out of pocket for transportation. And we'll have to figure some different avenues for that. Maybe some grants are going to become available. Again, we're just going to have to look at everything, lay all our cards on the table and see what our best hand is. But we're going to have to pay next school year for transportation if that's something we want to embark on. And then the following school year, the state will base the budget and the allocation that they're going to give us off of that chunk of money. So there's some ideas on the table. I would like to work with Walatoa. I feel like they're also in the same position. I meet with Dr. Arrow Wilkinson next Wednesday, and this is going to be one of the items that I want to try to get ahead on because if it is a transportation thing, we're both charter schools, and if they've lost this funding as well, maybe what we can do is split the costs on this. And try to get some busing for our students. And I believe this is really important because it's a recruitment tool. We need to increase our enrollment, which is going to lead us to our next item here. We need to increase our enrollment so that we can increase our budget. That's the easiest way to do that. And I think the best way to bring students into our school is to offer transportation. So this is going to be something that's going to be a big conversation moving towards the end of the school year. But I just want to make sure that you all understand what has been done and what we're trying to do. It's one of these things that, you know, I can deal with the 90-day plan and epicenter. I can deal with certain things that are out of compliance that we have time to get in. But with transportation, it's one of those where I went back home and said, man, I wish I was here in July. I wish I was here in August, because that's a big one for our schools. And I'm disappointed that we're going to be losing out on this. I'm still trying to figure it out, but based on what the business office is telling me, it's just not looking feasible for us right now. Moving into enrollment, we're currently at an enrollment of 52 students. We had 3 students disenroll. Nothing that we're doing wrong at the school. 2 of those students moved to Albuquerque. They actually moved down the road from me, I found out, when they were here disenrolling. I did offer to turn myself into the Lovato bus, even though it's not recommended, and it's definitely not something we want to do. But you know, they made their choice. They're gonna be going to school here in Albuquerque. Totally get it. It's way out of their way. And the other student was an 8th grade student that we had an agreement with the high school. Walatoa was going to be helping him because he needed a little bit more of enrichment, and the folks just decided to go ahead and pull him anyways. And so they disenrolled him. We gave the parents all the information they needed so that they could make the best decision. But they were still set on making sure that he was enrolled at the Walatoa High School. So they disenrolled him from our school. I did get word that we have a couple of new students that will be enrolling in the next week or 2. So I'll keep you updated on any new enrollments. That'll be something. Enrollment and staffing are going to be 2 things that are probably going to be more regular on our agendas my reports as we move forward. So going into staffing, we had 2 employees retire before winter break. We had 1 employee resign from their position, and that was the administrative assistant that we had on our staff due to personal reasons. We had a close one with our math teacher who is dealing with some health concerns, who did resign, but we worked some things out, and he's going to be able to deliver math instruction virtually. And we're going to put another person in that classroom for support so that we have a licensed educator delivering the curriculum with that support there, because it's going to be very difficult to find a math teacher to come out to San Diego Riverside, especially this late in the school year. I will keep my ears open. If you have any suggestions, please, or you know somebody that's interested, please send them my way. But again, I think this is in the best interest for our students so that they have a licensed educator in that classroom. We were also very successful in changing some of the contracts that we had concern about. We obviously were contracting out with Walatoa High School and some of their educators to deliver instruction to our middle school, and that was for math, science, and ELA. And I am happy to report that I was very successful in changing those contracts. One contract was at a 0.52. And was really absorbing a lot of our budget on that salary. And so we got her down to a 0.2. The other one was at like a 0.37. We got her down to a 0.2. And we may be actually moving her completely out that because we're revising our daily schedules and our staff roles so that we can accommodate some of these changes. This will help us on the budget, but this will also put teachers that are actually licensed to teach certain classes in the right place and save us money in the process. So, you know, just bear with me. There's a couple of changes that we're making, nothing drastic. We just want to make sure that licensed educators that have those credentials and endorsements are teaching those classes. And if we can get rid of some of those high school contracts, we can save a little bit of money as we move through the school year. Next thing that we have here, do I have any questions real quick? I just want to take a pause to see if there's any questions on enrollment and staffing and transportation.
Yeah, I have specific questions, but we might have to address those in executive session because we're going to talk specifically about staffing. So
Sure.
on from there. Does anybody else have anything else? This is Margie. Yeah.
I had a question, but I can wait, I guess, into the executive session.
Okay, don't
Yeah.
forget. Okay, all right, go ahead.
All right. Let's see. We're looking at new Google emails and accounts. The San Diego Riverside at was it k12.unm.this.that. They've become a little difficult to access for certain purposes. I'm having difficulty getting into Google Docs. So right when I landed at the school, I was working with a PEC on on a handful of items and the charter school division. They were sending me over documents, and I was unsuccessful in being able to open these documents. So I gave them a side work Google account that I have been using. So if you see a separate email, that's a temporary one until we get Google set up for education. There should be no charge for this, but it's just going to be a little bit easier to communicate and get items out. And we're going to be able to set up Google emails for the for the governing board as well. So I just want to let you all know that you'll be able to be set up with a work email, so to speak, where we can all communicate, and it'll be just so much easier to gain access to documents and communicate that way. The last are just kind of announcements and reminders. We have a field trip. I'm big on field trips and getting kiddos out, experiential learning. And it's been great to have the support from the staff as well as the governing board. But we have New Mexico School for the Arts that came and paid a visit to us right before we went on winter break. And they are going to be paying for, sorry, I caught an error there and it bugs me when I see them. They're going to be paying for the whole trip. They're bringing buses out to us, or a bus, and they're going to take our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders out to New Mexico School for the Arts out in Santa Fe. They'll be there from about 10 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, and they've got some rotations and workshops they're going to be joining in. I'm really excited for this and giving them this opportunity, and it also falls in line with our 8th grade next step plan for that's a state requirement. So our 8th graders are going to be able to check off a big box for them and to be able to see other opportunities that lie outside of San Diego Riverside.
Well, that sounds great. Do you know what date it's going to be?
Yes, sorry, I should have put that on there. It is actually next Wednesday. It's the 22nd.
Okay, great.
The 22nd. And then just a reminder, we have our board retreat scheduled for Saturday, February the 1st. It's going to be held at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I believe we're going to be able to conduct our board meeting for February during that time. So we'll be able to knock 2 things out and be a little bit more efficient with our time. So just again, reminder that we have our board retreat. Think about any items that you feel like we need to address. I'll be coming with some of the things I would like to address. Public Charter Schools New Mexico, our mentors Teresa and Diego will bring coming in with some items. And if Dan is, and his crew, or and I know Sam is working with Daniel as well. Maybe one of them are going to be able to join us at that meeting. If you have anything or any suggestions as well, Dan, we appreciate that. But I'm looking forward to our first retreat with San Diego Riverside and planning out how we can finish the school year and looking towards the future, see what the next year or 2 look like as we start to prepare. And I know we just got done with a recharter, but that's something that's going to be on our mind 2027. We want to make sure that we go in and we have everything in the right order so that we get us another 3 to 5 years on our next charter contract.
Yep.
And that's what I have for my principal's report. I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
That sounds great. Jordan, thank you for that. This is Margie. I appreciate your report, and I'll during that retreat, are we going to get our board hours that are needed for the board members during that time? Or are we going to have time for that?
I believe that the way Teresa usually conducts these meetings, and Dan, feel free to jump in. I believe that some of these, if we do finance, if we do certain things in there, they will count towards, it should count towards our meetings. The only things that it wouldn't count towards is if we're bringing a brand new board member on, they're still going to have to go and complete the 10 hours of new board training.
Right, but we have Canvas, I think it is, so they can do it online too, I believe.
Yeah, they'll be able to do that online, and I'll give you his name, Patrick Segura, really great guy. Again, vet him, be hard on him.
I
He's
like
really
it.
excited, and he just wants to jump in and help kiddos. I know when I presented this to the Public Education Commission, again, just want to be transparent, they were very leery on the head administrator, director, principal making these recommendations. But you know, there's a lot of folks in my inner circle, and I'm not just going to recommend anybody. This individual is somebody who I've worked with in the capacity of education. He was an educator under me, and he's somebody who I trust to make decisions, to challenge me and hold me accountable. And so I really respect where he's coming from, and he's also familiar with the Pueblo, as he's worked with law enforcement with the Jemez for many, many years. A lot of folks know him, and I think he'd be a great addition to your board.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions on the principal's report? Any board members?
Thank you, Joe Dan. That was very, very impressive. Thank you for the good job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, very informative. We need all that information and more. Okay, the next item on the agenda, that's all, is public comment, and it's just us right now, but I just like to see if anybody in public comment has any questions for our new attorney here, or any questions, or if Mr. Hill has any questions for us. Anybody? Thank you for that. Okay, then we'll go on to announcements. The announcements are usually, we have our board meeting scheduled for this second Thursday of every single month. Since we're having our retreat in person, then we wanted to have the board meeting in person on that same time, at that same time. So it says next board meeting scheduled for February 13th, but we will change that to the next meeting scheduled. It would be February 1st then. Is that what we want to do? That board meeting at the same time as our retreat, Jordan?
That's correct. And Dan, would we need to make an addendum to the agenda to include that?
To include what, sorry?
The change for the retreat. So the agenda shows that our next board meeting is for February the 13th. But since we're going to hold that on the 1st.
It's just the minutes for this meeting will reflect that we announced the meeting will be held on the 1st. I mean, the really only major requirement would be that we post the notice 72 hours before the meeting. So as long as we do that, we'll be legal.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. So that's it for the announcements. The next item of our meeting is that we have we need a consideration for approval to adjourn the regularly scheduled board meeting to attend a closed session meeting for the executive session, and then we'll reconvene back to the open meeting. So if I can get approval from the board or a motion to leave the regularly scheduled board meetings, go into executive session, I need a motion and a second for that.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, Susan Bach made a motion to leave the regularly scheduled board meeting and go into executive session. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
David Toledo, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So we'll go ahead and leave now, and Mr. Hill, I thank you for being here. I don't know if you probably don't want to wait around till we reconvene, but we do appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in person at our board meeting in February with our retreat. Okay?
Thanks, everyone. It's nice to meet everyone. And
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
if you need anything, I did put my contact information in the chat, so feel free to reach out with anything.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. All right, we can join our executive session, you all. I wanted Hello, Jensen, we're back, and I want to thank you for staying with us and waiting for us. We had a long executive session. I apologize for that. We had a lot of stuff to go through, but I appreciate you being here waiting for us. It's 7:50 p.m. and we are now reconvening back to the regular open meeting from executive session. I just want to make a statement that no action items were made during executive session, only limited personnel matters were discussed. So as we return back there, the last item on the agenda is to adjourn the meeting. So if I could have a motion in a second to adjourn the meeting. It's now 7:50 p.m. Could be anybody from the board.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, David Toledo made a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? I think Susan didn't make it back. Kiani, are you still there? Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Susan,
I'll
there.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Kiani,
Oh.
Upshot seconded the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, good.
Now 7:51 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned, and I thank you all for being here and staying with us, and we will talk to you soon, okay? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Well,
you
thank
all.
you. Good
Appreciate
night.
it.
Thank you, everybody.
Jensen. You're the
Bye,
man.
y'all.
Mr.
Appreciate it.
Lovato. Thank you,
Have
appreciate
a
it.
great weekend. Thank you, sir.
You're a good man.
Thank you. You all are as well. Good people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here,
Good night.
bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.